Hello princesses! Today I'm going to be talking about the Kate Secret Skin Maker Zero, or the base zero, in the shade 00. That's a lot of zeros. I bought this product because I saw some swatches that showed the shade 00 to be a little bit lighter than the shade MAC NC15, and I wear MAC NC10, so I thought it's lighter than NC15, probably going to be a good shade for porcelain princesses. It was pretty inexpensive at $15 US, and I bought mine from Adam Beauty, and it shipped pretty quickly actually, so I was very pleased with that, but it's very pale. And when I mean very pale, it is too pale for me. And I have had some comments recently saying, oh my god, you're not even that pale. It's not a competition. So for me personally, I have very warm toned skin. That means that when I go in the sun, I tan really quickly. I have yellow toned skin, which is like your classic olive toned skin basically, but I'm just a very pale version of that. I don't really go outside in the sun very often, and I was on Accutane for 2 years, which means that you literally can't go out in the sun because you will burn. So therefore, I am very pale and very yellow toned, which makes it actually very difficult to find foundations, because in the drugstore, the palest foundations are usually pink toned, because your classic pale skin is cool toned or pink toned. For me, it makes it very difficult to find a good foundation match. The perfect match for me is actually NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia, but I don't really like the formula of that. But it is very pale and it is very yellow coloured. So those sorts of foundations work well for me, and the reason that I started this channel or blog 5 years ago was to be able to show other people what sort of foundations you can use if you are the same sort of skin tone as me. However, I decided to review this one anyway, even though it is totally the wrong colour for me, and it is kind of hilarious because I've never actually tried a foundation that is quite so pale and terribly toned for me, because there are other people in the world who have different coloured skin, not just in the sense of pale versus dark, but yellow versus cool tone. So if you have cool toned skin and you are very pale, I would say probably paler than MAC NW10, which I used to have and I don't have it anymore because I have NC10, then this is probably a foundation that you will enjoy. Introduction and rant over. So the product description says, covers pore unevenness in one coat, blends into skin and all the heaviness disappears. The new liquid foundation offers thorough coverage with just one coat without heaviness. This colour lineup has adjusted redness and brightness to give the face a healthy complexion and making skin become one tone lighter. This foundation comes with elegant packaging that even includes a pump. The only downside with the packaging is that you won't be able to tell when the foundation is running out. I saw a user, 2 Cats in Japan, on Reddit or AsianSkincareBlog.com post this amazing photo of all of the swatches compared to MAC NC15. It's pretty rare to see all shades swatched together, so this is a really great guide. MAC NC15 is too dark for me, so since shade 00 is lighter and shade 01 is darker, I chose shade 00. And oh my gosh, it is pale. Sadly for me, it is also cool or neutral toned, whereas I am very warm toned, so immediately I knew that this wasn't going to work out for me. Of course, I did swatch this next to my perfect shade, which is NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia too, and this foundation makes Siberia look like it is jaundiced. I found that this foundation was a little bit difficult to apply. Using a brush brought out too much texture on my skin. Using a cushion puff just took forever because of the thin texture, but using a beauty blender worked out best. Obviously, the colour is absolutely terrible. Since this colour is too light and is also too pink toned, the pink tone in the foundation actually brightens up my skin even more and makes it look even worse. This foundation offers very little coverage for me. You can still see my acne scarring quite clearly, and you can also see a lot of the lighter freckles around my eyes too. I also found that this foundation clung to dry patches on my skin, and it really emphasised my fine lines. However, this is definitely a good shade for cool toned porcelain princesses. My neck looks jaundiced. After an 8-hour day in which I actually didn't go outside because my face looked terribly ghostly, my face is looking a little bit worse for wear. It's very oily and my skin doesn't actually produce that much oil at the moment, so that's quite an interesting concept. This foundation did also oxidize a little bit with wear, though not enough to match my neck. It also wore off the tip of my nose and my chin too. I literally couldn't wait to take it off because it just looked terrible. So I love that this is inexpensive at $15 US or 22 New Zealand dollars. It has elegant and functional packaging, and the shade 00 is super pale and cool to neutral toned. I don't love that the lightest shade is too light and the shade up is going to be too dark. It's a really big gap. Their colours are really interesting if you look at them all swatched together. There are two that look really similar. One is super yellow and then the other one is super tan. It only offers very light coverage, it clings to dry patches, but it also has no oil control, and it emphasises my fine lines and wrinkles, which is not cute. I don't want to look older than I am, and this foundation makes my skin look old. Overall, I'm not a big fan of this foundation, both for the colour and the formula. I am disappointed that there is such a big gap between the two lightest colours. I'm not that disappointed that the foundation itself is cool toned, because I am not the only person in the world, and there are other people that have different tones of skin other than myself. Obviously I would love it if it was warm toned, but in the Asian beauty world in general, the lightest foundations are warm toned. And this works out well for me, and it is one of the big reasons that I am so into K-beauty, because more likely than not I will fit the lightest colour. However, it frustrates me that the two lightest shades are so far apart. The lightest shade is very light, and not many people are going to fit that lightness. Anybody who is probably going to be wearing the Laneige cushion in 11C would probably really like this colour. But for the rest of the people, if you fit in between those two lightest shades, unless you're going to mix them, there's not much you can do. As for the formula, I did find it slightly difficult to apply. It didn't work well with cushion puffs because the liquid was too thin, and it didn't work well with brushes because the brushes just sort of brought up skin on my face. That sounds really awful. But there was also very little coverage, very little lasting power, and it made my skin look dry and old. And my skin in general is not dry and old, it's actually pretty well moisturized. So unfortunately, it wasn't a flattering formula for me, as well as not a flattering color. It's not a product that I would use again, but it is something that will probably work for other princesses. And if you are that very cool to neutral tone and very pale, it's a product that I'd recommend trying because it's pretty inexpensive, so why not give it a go? So I'd recommend the Kate Secret Skin Maker Zero to any princesses who are cool toned and lighter than MAC NW10. Thank you guys so much for watching this review, and I'll see you next time.